How many times have you been through the struggle of holding an angle for what feels like an eternity only to be peeked and instantly killed without time to react? This video isn't going to completely stop that, but it will help greatly reduce those chances from occurring and actually help you be on the other side of the tunnel where you are the one that is getting those instant kills. This is a complete movement guide to Valorant that will get you looking like a pro in no time. With that being said, let's jump right into the video. First, let's go over the basics. So there are two objectives when peeking. You're either peeking with the intention of getting an aim duel, or you're peeking for information. Let's first talk about peeking for aim duels. You're in this state of peeking whenever you're clearing angles or when you're about to swing onto an enemy. If you're expecting to peek against an enemy, you want to be in the most advantageous position, and one of the ways you can do that is with your movement when peeking. When you're clearing angles and swinging onto enemies, you want to be using the A and D keys for maximum speed. The reason you're doing this is because a strafing target is an elusive target. If you're able to move quickly in and out of a player's crosshair, you'll be able to survive any untimely aim duels and give yourself a chance to reset for a better fight. A common mistake that we see players making with their peeks is that they lack good mechanics and are way too predictable. By swinging back and forth with A and D, you'll be able to gather information, and when you have a good idea of where the enemy is, you can then go for a full committed peek after confusing them with your timing. This versus running into the open where you don't know where anyone is, and if someone is holding where you just peeked out from, you're going to be an easy kill. Be thorough with your clearing and jitter using A and D. You can see Steal from 100 Thieves using these peeks in a more simplistic manner to go for one-on-one duels at A long in this clip. Compare this to if he just swung wide, he'd have to go for a 1 versus 2 duel, which is not favorable for him to win. Rather, he isolated each player and gave himself a fair chance of getting those kills with those tighter peeks. Keep clearing all possible angles that a player could be in, and not just the most common ones. When you catch someone off guard holding an off angle, not only will you get a peek for your team, but you'll also get the satisfaction of tilting the enemy team who didn't expect that you would even try to peek that angle. We know it's annoying to spend all this extra time peeking every single angle possible, and yeah, most of the time there's not going to be anyone there. However, we found in nearly every single game, there's always going to be at least one scenario where a player is playing a cheeky angle and ends up killing someone for free because they weren't thorough with their clears. You'll even see this occasionally in pro play where players just get lazy and they miss an angle and then they get picked off for free. This is the fundamental movement mechanic that you'll need to win more of your duels, so make sure that you nail these peeks down first. And if you want to take things a step further and have complete access to not only movement techniques, but aim techniques, strategies, tips from actual Radiant level players to improve, and much more, then go to SkillCapped.com to check out even more detailed guides that will get you improving at an insane pace. The link will be provided in the description below. With the basics out of the way, let's get into the more in-depth techniques. First up, we have Strafe Shooting, which is an improved method of counter-strafing. Counter-strafing is when you hit one of your side movement keys and then hit the opposite key to stop before shooting. For example, if you were to peek by moving to the left, you'd immediately hit D to stop moving, thus countering your initial movement. The idea behind this is it helps you get into an accurate position faster. However, we found that to be an incorrect statement. This concept originated in Counter-Strike and was crucial to decreasing the time that it takes to be accurate. However, in Valorant, it really doesn't make that much of a difference. If you have the habit of counter-strafing, that's perfectly fine. However, the real movement advantage will come from strafe shooting. Strafe shooting is when you utilize the same technique as counter-strafing, but you perform it multiple times in an open area. Strafe to the left and stop to shoot, and then strafe to the right and then stop to shoot again. Repeat as many times as you need to eliminate the enemy. This helps you become more of a moving target when engaging in aim duels, particularly aim duels of medium to long range, where the target is harder to hit. You can practice strafe shooting by going into the training range. To know if you're strafe shooting properly, strafe to 2 specific spots on the wall and then fire a single bullet or burst of bullets. Your shots should be pretty condensed, meaning they're hitting the same spot every strafe. Repeat this until you are able to do it consistently, and if you miss your initial taps and bursts, utilize strafe shooting to reset your recoil and also make the enemy have to adjust their aim as well. Following that up, we have wide peeking. This is a variation to the initial peeks that we were performing earlier. In most scenarios, it's going to be a good idea to alternate between moving left and right to slowly peek each angle. However, when facing an operator or an enemy that likes to hold tight corners, wide peeking is going to be a good method of throwing them off. Rather than going for tight-knit peeks, you're going to strafe further to the side. If an enemy is holding a tight angle, they won't be able to react fast enough to shoot you down before you run past them. For example, in this clip here, we have Jet holding a tight angle down A long. The enemy ends up wide peeking, making for a very difficult shot that ends up being baited out. Had this player had an op and the enemy did a normal peek, they would have been a very easy target to hit. This information then helps identify enemy positions and adapt your strategy and play. Particularly, Y peeking is really useful to scout out common areas where an operator may be at. Along with that, if you find that players are instantly headshotting you with a normal peek, then a Y peek may be just what you need to mess up their rhythm. It will take longer for you to be able to shoot since you're moving longer, but if the enemy is used to hitting those crispy shots from a normal peek, the Y peek could throw them off where they end up shooting where they thought you would stop. Next up, we have jump peeking and jiggle peeking. These are two fantastic techniques to gather information with little to no risk. It's also a great method of revealing an operator's position and baiting out a shot that could leave them very vulnerable to being killed. We recommend binding your jump button in the mouse wheel as it helps make this process much smoother. To jump peek, you're going to want to jump towards an area that you want to peek. Once you've gotten a glimpse of that position, you quickly glide your mouse in the opposite direction so that you jump back into a safe position. The timing for this is going to be crucial so that you only reveal yourself for a brief moment, almost to the extent that you can barely spot an enemy before you glide away. A key thing that can also help is using your mini-map after the peek. This can help you identify if you saw anyone if you're not quite used to jump peeking. The other method of information gathering is jiggle peeking. This is a much simpler method to do as it doesn't require any jumping. Instead, you're going to take out your knife and then strafe briefly to scout out a certain area. Similarly, this reveals you for just a brief moment to spot any players without risking getting into an unfavorable aim duel. We've come to the topic of crouching. This has been a highly debated topic in Valorant as many question if it's actually good or bad. Crouching will increase the accuracy of your shots, making it easier to hit your targets and also control weapon recoil. However, it sounds good at first, but there are way more cons to crouching than pros, unfortunately. One of the cons is that it makes it easier for low elo players to land a headshot on you. The reason being is that these players will typically aim more at the chest level or leg level, and as a result, by you crouching down, that chest level is now going to be a headshot. The biggest disadvantage of crouching though is the inability to move when you do so. When you crouch, you are fully committed to a fight and are a sitting duck if you don't kill someone quickly. This compared to someone who may be strafe shooting, it's going to be way easier for the enemy to land shots on a crouch player than it would be on a moving player. Particular instances where crouching is a bad idea include when you're holding an angle or when you're about to face multiple enemies, as you may do when you're pushing onto a site or if an enemy is pushing onto your site. The best way to utilize crouching is for helping control a wild spray. For example, if you weren't able to land those initial bullets to kill a player, crouching afterwards can help you pull your bullets back down so that they continue hitting that player. Ideally, we found the timing to be around 4 to 6 bullets, where crouching at that point would result in a headshot if you were to keep your mouse still and not pull down. If recoil control is not your thing, then this is going to help you drastically. However, we recommend using this more as a second option, and you should work on actual recoil control and treat this technique as more of a backup plan if you notice that your spray is starting to go a little crazy. On multiple maps in Valorant, jump spotting is also a quite valuable method of seeking information without risking being punished for it. There are multiple objects in Valorant where you can jump and spot players without exposing too much of your body. A few examples include the back of B site on Bind, behind truck on the A side of Bind, crates behind A on Ascent, along with the crates on Catwalk. The crates on the A side of Haven could be utilized to spot A long as a defender or to spot spawn as an attacker. If you're playing Jet, jump spotting is also a great way to utilize your ultimate. Jump spot to identify players, then hit them with a quick dagger headshot to eliminate them before they can even react. Again, if you found jump peeking to be a bit tricky, then jump spotting and jiggle peeking will be much easier to get used to first before adding jump peeks into the mix. Last but not least, we have bunny hopping. Bunny hopping originated in Counter-Strike and is way easier to do in Valorant. To bunny hop, you're going to jump and then glide your mouse to the left or right. When you're about to land, hit jump again and glide your mouse to the opposite direction. Repeat this to get smooth jumps without losing speed. Bunny hopping doesn't necessarily help speed you up, and to be honest, for the most part, it's just a fun way to move around in Valorant. However, there are a few instances where this is useful to do. For example, getting up Haven windows can be done much easier by bunny hopping. Simply run up to the stairs at an angle and then hop your way over on each step. This is much faster than the normal way of just jumping onto the stairs one by one and can really catch players off guard when they don't expect you to get there so quickly. The other way of utilizing bunny hopping is for moving fast but silently. When going up an incline, you can run and go for an initial jump and then start bunny hopping while holding your walk key. This will maintain some of your momentum while keeping you quiet. Great for getting you more distance at a faster pace than if you were to just shift walk normally through. That's all we have for this video. We hope you took something away and learned from today's guide. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get more premium guides just like this one with one goal in mind: helping you become a better player. We here at SkillCapped want to thank you for watching. We'll catch you in the next. I'm Dr. Zora, and good luck out there.